Ladies and gentlemen, friends, family, and baffled onlookers, we gathered today to remember Chris, the man who, with an entire lifetime of choices behind him, and likely a few more to make ahead, decided to make one final, irrevocable choice. He bought a puppy. Not just any puppy, but a rambunctious, unhousebroken ball of fur with boundless energy and bladder control issues. And not just at any time. No, Chris chose to bring this little furnado home 1 week before his wedding. Now you might be asking yourself, why would he do that? And as I stand here, I too am asking the same question. In fact, I think we've all been asking ourselves that since the fateful moment he brought that pup home. But to truly understand Chris, and more importantly, to understand the decision making that led to this moment, we must go back to the beginning. Chris, for those who don't know, was never a man to be ruled by common sense. No, he was a dreamer, a believer in the impossible, like the time he tried to train a squirrel to come when called, or the time he thought it was a good idea to partake in a riot in college. He was a man who saw rules and warnings as mere suggestions, the kind of man who could see a caution sign and think, nah, it's for other people. And so, when his soon-to-be wife said to him, Chris, no, don't even think about getting a puppy right now. We have a wedding in a week. I've done all the planning. I've arranged every last detail. Please, just this once, don't complicate things. Chris nodded. He nodded in that way men do when they're listening but only to about 30% of what's being said. The other 70% of Chris's brain, it was already at the breeder's house. It should have been a happy time. It should have been a week of peace, final wedding preparations, maybe even calm, reflective moments where Chris could look back and think, boy, I really lucked out here. I found a woman who loves me despite knowing everything about me. This is going to be great. Instead, Chris spent his last week of bachelorhood knee-deep in chewed shoes, torn carpets, and puppy accidents. The puppy, of course, was delighted. Chris's fiancée, less so. Imagine, if you will, the delicate balancing act of finalizing guest lists, confirming seating arrangements, and coordinating a catering menu, all while a creature no longer than a loaf of bread is systematically dismantling your home. Every few minutes, Chris could be found muttering, "It'll calm down. And puppies are a lot of work, but worth it, right?" His fiancée, a vision of patience and fortitude, was often spotted staring out the window, likely counting down the hours until the wedding day, or possibly contemplating an annulment. By day 4, Chris was a changed man. Gone was the confident soon-to-be husband. In his place stood a man with dark circles under his eyes, mismatched socks, and a defeated slump in his shoulders. The puppy, named something like Rascal or Mischief, had taken over Chris's life. At night, the pup whined incessantly, demanding to be let out. During the day, it gnawed on table legs with the intensity of a beaver on a deadline. The final straw came the day before the wedding, when Chris, frazzled and overwhelmed, made the unfortunate choice to ask, "Do you think the puppy can be in the wedding?" If we could resurrect Chris to ask how he thought it would go over, I'm confident he wouldn't even have an answer. The glare from his bride-to-be could have melted steel. As I understand it, that glare was the last thing Chris saw before the inevitable happened. We don't know the specifics of what took place. Some say he was smothered by flower arrangements. Others suggest he met his end in a tragic leash incident. But what we do know is that Chris was a man who lived and died by his decisions. He loved deeply, but also impulsively. In the end, that was his undoing. Some men fall to more predictable perils, like fast cars, wild adventures, or perhaps a love of gambling. But not Chris. Chris fell to a pair of puppy eyes. As we say goodbye, let us remember Chris not as the man who made one fatal decision, but as a man who consistently made several questionable ones. A man who believed that, despite all evidence to the contrary, he could juggle a wedding and a puppy in the same week. A man who, even in his final days, thought, this will all work out. Rest in peace, Chris. May you find the calm and order in the afterlife that eluded you in your final days here. Let's raise a glass to a man whose life was lived with optimism, enthusiasm, and a complete disregard for practicality. Here's to you, buddy. May your next adventures be free from unruly puppies, furious fiancés, and decisions made without consulting another first. And with that, Let's all go hug our significant others and leave the puppy shopping for another time.